Hey, everybody. What if the people we elect are not the ones making the real decisions? What if the biggest choices affecting our lives are shaped by forces the public never sees? Or we see them, but we don't recognize them? Today, I'm going to use tarot to help guide us through the smoke screen so we can understand the power operating behind our elected leaders. Stay tuned.
Reverend Rob Lee. Bold, smart, and straight to the point. This is Tarot with an Attitude.
I'm Reverend Rob Lee, and this is Tarot with an Attitude. Hey, we've spent decades watching elections, debates, and political battles, but somehow doesn't it seem like the same patterns of power keep showing up no matter who wins? Because it's the same stuff, the same banter, okay? That's why so many people believe there's actually something deeper at play. And I believe this with my heart, a shadow government that is made up of networks, agencies, and interests that influence major decisions far beyond what our elected officials can control. Instead of trying to guess who those forces are, I'm going to use tarot and spirit to help see through the noise. The cards don't point fingers, they do reveal the energy, the structure, and the intent behind these hidden systems. And when we line that energy up with actual history and declassified programs, the picture becomes much clearer. I pulled 7 cards to guide us through this. What our elected officials are allowed to do, what's being controlled behind them, what motivates that control, and where the whole system is starting to break apart. So it's time. Let's just get into it. What we're looking at here is the face of power. The Eight of Swords shows the public facing government as being trapped and restricted. That's the people that you and I see. We know their names, things like that. Even the people we think are in charge often operate inside limits they didn't choose or they have no power against. Let's look at this from a historical standpoint. We have things, and these are all factual things you can look up and find. 1956 to 1971, COINTELPRO. The FBI conducted illegal surveillance and disruption without any presidential oversight. We know this to be true. The whole MK Ultra program, starting back in the 50s, CIA conducted unauthorized mind control experiments for 20 years. This didn't get revealed until 1975 in the Church Committee hearings. Again, in the 50s, all the way through the 70s. This one's really kind of chilling. Operation Mockingbird. The CIA covertly influenced major media outlets and how to spread the news, how to do it. We're going to talk about our news media here in a little bit. And then let's take a look at 2001 to present. Multiple presidents have publicly complained about intelligence agencies withholding information. If you remember the funny thing about the old Independence Day movie, why wasn't I told about this? Plausible deniability. More truth in that than what we know. The Eight of Swords shows that our public leaders aren't as free as they look. So the next card I asked, what's the shadow influence? And I got the Two of Swords here. All right. The Two of Swords. This reveals hidden negotiations, blindfolded decision making. Think about this. Decisions that are being made without the purview of our leaders and backroom alliances. Power functions through quiet agreements that we never see, things that the people that we didn't elect. Let's look at how we can show this factually. 1985 through 1987, who doesn't remember that is my age, the Iran-Contra affair. White House staff secretly sold weapons to Iran and funded rebels, completely bypassing Congress. Not just bypassing the president, they bypass Congress. How did that happen? A general just go, hey, I think we're going to make some money. No, there was something at work behind that. Again, we talk about the MK Ultra program, high level operations approved by a tiny group, which was found out to be unknown to most officials in power at that time. Now, in 2013, we're going to look a little closer to home. Names that might be a little bit familiar to you. We have the NSA surveillance leaks. Congress learned about mass data collection from Snowden, showing decisions were made privately, was not done by the government. Now, modern lobbying. 12,000 plus lobbyists shape legislation long before it reaches the public. They're already in the congressman's ear, and our congressmen forget they're supposed to be our lobbyists, not the lobbyists for business. Okay. This is very powerful when you think about somebody that's being paid to be in their ear all the time and how much they're influencing the decision making that's going on and legislation. The Two of Swords talks about invisible hands calling the shots. Now, what's the motive behind all this? And this is what a lot of people want to know. And lo and behold, I got the Ten of Wands. All right. And I did actually pull this as a spread and meditate over it, everything else. The Ten of Wands. The Ten of Wands actually shows a system driven by maintaining power and control at all costs. Bring this burden. Everything's there. It's what they want. Okay. The priority is not transparency, it's preserving influence, dominance, and the existing hierarchy. Here we go. Let's take a look at some things. The Patriot Act, 2001. Surveillance powers were massively expanded. And then, so we want to blame Bush for that, but then they were repeatedly defended by other presidents, regardless of the administration. In 2008, remember all the financial crisis bailouts? Financial elites helped design their own rescue packages to preserve power. We saw this. We were laughing about it. We're like, it's so in our face. But this is what's going on. You know, even presently, we have ever growing defense budgets, military spending increases under Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden. Power preserved regardless of party. Remember that lobbying we're talking about? Let me throw this number at you. 2023, 4.1 billion, that's with a B, in lobbying. Corporations and wealthy donors are paying that much money to keep the system working in their favor. The Ten of Wands is showing us that the power is being protected, not shared. Now I have what I asked about. What were the tools? How are they doing this? Tools of control. And I got the Three of Pentacles. You know, the Three of Pentacles, what this talks about, anybody that's tarot reader knows this, the biggest thing is collaboration. Shadow power works through networks, partnerships, coordinated operations between government corporations, and intelligence. Let's take a look. In the 50s, we say, oh, we were talking about our journalists. In the 50s through the 70s, that Operation Mockingbird I told you about, the CIA coordinated with journalists and publishers to shape narratives that the public was being fed. You know, then we have in the early 2000s to mid 2000s, we have the Patriot Act data pipeline. NSA and telecom companies participated together in bulk data handover, which wasn't ruled illegal until 2020, just 5 years ago. From the 80s up through now, look at all the revolving door politics. This is crazy. Think about this. Goldman Sachs executives are repeatedly placed in U.S. Treasury leadership across multiple administrations. Defense contractors, companies like Raytheon, Lockheed, they collaborate with Pentagon officials, not just to build stuff, but to actually shape foreign policy so their product can be used more wisely. The Three of Pentacles is talking about there's actual teamwork in getting this whole shadow government. It's not just one person. One of the biggest secrets we've got here, and this is what really strikes me, and this is what was laid on my heart very heavily. The biggest secret, I got the Four of Cups. You're like, Rob, how is that? Well, you talk about complacency, but the Four of Cups represents a deliberate distraction. We're not paying attention. The truth is often right in front of us, but the system encourages us to ignore it, look away, or stay apathetic. What am I doing with my left hand while my right hand's doing something else? We had Operation Northwoods in 1962. This was declassified decades later, where the military proposed actually staging fake attacks on Americans to justify a war with Cuba. This isn't just old stuff. Man, let's take a look at the Epstein network. I just did a thing about Epstein here because all this ties in together. And this is really eating on me to get people to wake up and stop fighting each other. A powerful connection is ignored for years. In 2008, a plea deal was made for him that was like a cherry deal that was later tied to intelligence protection. Now, post 2/11, we have a media consolidation. Let's think about this. Do you understand that 90% of US media is controlled by 6 corporations, shaping what the public sees or doesn't see? Do you think if only 6 corporations run 90% of the media, it's going to be very easy to control and coordinate the flow of what's being out there for people to see? The Four of Cups. The truth isn't absent, it's buried under distractions. Now, here's where we can find some hope. I'm asking, how do we get into this or what now? Cracks in the system. And I actually got the Lover's card. All right. And that kind of threw me at first. I had to really sit back on this one and think about it and let spirit talk to me. The Lover shows how the system survives through division, fear, and emotional psyops. If people stop fighting each other over manufactured problems, they unite. And united people can dismantle the corrupt system. Cracks begin to appear in the system when the public starts recognizing these manipulations for what they are. Think about some of the stuff we're arguing about. It's crazy, things that are being done. But we're so angry over this, we don't see what's going on over here. Let's talk about this. Remember that COINTELPRO thing? FBI used fake letters, infiltrators, and psychological operations to inflame tensions and prevent unity among civil rights and anti-war groups. That actually got exposed in 1971. So if you think they were doing it then, you think it just went away or just found a new way to do it. Okay. We have fear-based politics. That's been from the 2001 on. 9/11, emotional conditioning created long-term division and compliance. COVID, the vaccine. Look at all this fear-based politics. 2013, Snowden spoke out, revealed behavioral data modeling and mass surveillance that amplified emotional and political polarization. Profiling, which has been ruled, no, don't do it. But yet it's been revealed it's been being done at the highest level. We have a social media manipulation. The Cambridge Analytica and Senate investigations confirmed emotional targeting and division-based profiling. Check this out, folks. Check out the social media movies that are out there. There's very big truth where they are targeting you and your emotions through an algorithm. Nobody can target me. Everybody can be targeted. Okay. We have the media consolidation that I was talking about. Narrow ownership, that 90% of all the media being owned by 6 corporations, okay, makes amplifying divisive narratives, division, easy and profitable. What's the old saying? Divide and conquer. The lovers is the system weakens when people reject division and we start turning toward unity. Lay off all this stuff. Don't let them distract us. What is the bigger picture? We're not getting the right questions asked, and we're definitely not getting the right questions answered. Finally, what do we need to know? And here's what I got. I found this card again was a little off the wall, but it makes sense. The Ace of Pentacles. The Ace of Pentacles signals a new foundation forming. Okay. Truth is surfacing. Awareness is rising. People like me that don't normally talk about this stuff, they're starting to see it. Some of our healers, some of our people that are just listening to truth and light, that don't want to fight with anybody, but like, what's going on? We're in the era of automatic trust in institutions that is ending, and that exposes these shadow networks. Now, let's look at some more data, okay? They have what they call a declassification cycle. I had to look this up. And it happens every 25 to 50 years. Reveals everything that was considered a conspiracy was actually a historical fact. What's going to happen 25 to 50 years from now? In 2023, Pew Research Company did a research poll and found that government trust, and Pew is one of those that you can actually trust with the data. Government trust has dropped to an all-time low in 2023 at 16%. This helps us. Low trust pushes transparency movements and accountability. It has people like me that normally keep their mouth shut and just go with the flow, standing up and going, listen to me. Let's pay attention. There's something deeper at risk here. These are where the cracks can start to form. 2015, we have the rise of independent journalism. They're not all good. It depends on what you're looking at. But we have activists, document leaks, decentralized media expose hidden structures. And these things are starting to happen. Modern tech is coming alive. The Panama Papers, whistleblowers, encrypted communication makes secrecy that much harder. Always worried about somebody looking over the shoulder. That's why these distraction techniques are so important to these people maintaining power. The Ace of Pentacles talks about new clarity, new truth, and new awareness. Once we know it and we can act on it, we can start building a new foundation and bring some things in. So, looking at these cards alongside the history we know, it becomes easier to see how much influence exists behind our elected officials. There are patterns that repeat, systems that protect themselves, and tactics that are used to keep the public distracted or divided. But the cards also show movement. Spirit is saying they show cracks, shifts, and growing awareness. People are questioning more, paying attention, and seeing the difference between what we're told and what's actually happening. And that awareness can be powerful. Whether you believe in the idea of a shadow government or you're just curious about how these patterns play out, tarot and spirit helps us step back and look at the larger picture with clearer eyes. It reminds us that nothing stays hidden forever, and collective awareness really does make a difference. Thanks for taking time to explore this with me today. If this gave you something to think about, feel free to hit the like button, subscribe, or share it with someone who would appreciate the conversation. And if you want to go deeper through a private reading or session, all the information is in the description below. Drop your comments in the chat. I'd love to hear what you have to say. All that being said, take what you want, leave what you don't, but leave with some peace, love, and light.